So let's get into it. How do we manage your debt? Now, the first thing to understand when we look at debt is we need to understand the different types of debt. Now, you can basically classify it in two major categories. The first one is what we call your secured debt, and the second one is unsecured debt. And you need to understand, when you look at your debt situation, what is secured debt and what is unsecured debt. So let's just quickly look at secured debt. Secured debt is the debt that you have that is underlined by an asset. So, for example, your mortgage, your bond with your property. That bond of yours is underlined by the property. The property is security for that debt. So if you don't pay your bond, what can happen is the bank can go through a legal process and they can repossess the property to limit their risk when they lend you the money. That is secured debt. Things like your car would also classify under secured debt. If you finance some kind of tools or something like a front-end loader or something like that you work with in your business, that is all secured debt because the asset underlines the debt. Then you have unsecured debt. Now, unsecured debt doesn't have an asset that is underlying the debt. For example, a credit card. The bank gives you the credit on your credit card, but there's no specific asset linked to that credit card. Therefore, their risk is much higher. They have a higher probability that if you don't pay your credit card, they have nothing to attach to get the money repaid to them. And because of the higher risk with unsecured debt, your interest rate on unsecured debt is much higher. So the bank takes a higher risk, therefore they charge a higher interest rate. So unsecured debt is the debt that kills your cash flow. That is the debt that is getting people into deep trouble. It's very seldom a person's bond or their car payments that gets them in trouble. And I'm saying very seldom. I don't say it never happens, but it's very seldom that is where the issue with debt happens. Usually the issue with debt happens on the credit cards, the personal loans, the overdrafts, the revolving credit, the store cards, the clothing accounts, the furniture accounts. That is where people get into big trouble with their debt. So when we start managing your debt, we start with your unsecured debt first. And that's, again, a lot of people make this mistake. They get themselves into a financial difficulty, they get themselves into debt, and then what they do is they sell the house, they sell the cars to try and reduce their expenses instead of focusing on getting rid of the unsecured debt first. So it's important to focus and get rid of that because that is what's killing your cash flow. It's the highest interest, it's the highest payments per 1,000 rands worth of debt that you have, and it kills your cash flow. Now, what you want to do is, on all of that unsecured debt, you are paying interest. So let's say, for example, you have a credit card, you're paying 1,500 Rand a month on. You have a personal loan, you're paying 2.5 on your personal loan, and you have, say, for example, a clothing account which costs you 1,000 Rand a month. So that gives us 5,000 Rand a month that you are paying towards interest. So what we want to do is we want to convert that money. Instead of it paying interest, you want to start earning interest with that money. But this is where so many people make a huge mistake. They want to start investing for retirement, for example. So on the one hand, they are spending 1,000 Rand a month on a retirement annuity, saying, well, at least I'm doing something for my retirement. But on the other hand, they are spending 5,000 Rand a month on debt, on credit cards and personal loans and all of these kind of debt. Guys, that is pointless because your retirement annuity might give you 7% return, net return on your investment. Your unsecured debt, you might be paying an average of 20 to 22% interest, and the interest rates are on an upward curve at this stage, which means our debt is going to become even more expensive moving forward. So you have, on the one hand, you are paying, you're investing, earning 7%. On the other hand, you are paying 22%. Does that make logical sense? So first get rid of the 22% so that you can save that, and then start investing the complete balance. Because if you can take the 1,000 Rand, get rid of the debt on the other hand, then you have the 5,000 that you were paying into debt, plus the 1,000 Rand that you were investing, and now you have 6,000 Rand that you can put away a month to start earning interest, and you're not paying any interest. And that will get you a capital asset and get you building financial gain much, much quicker. So always get rid of your unsecured debt first. As part of our coaching, what we teach people is to move your zero back to zero. That should be your first goal. Move your zero back to zero. So what do I mean when I talk about moving your zero back to zero? What I mean there is when we start working, if we have zero money in our account, we have zero money to spend. So what then happens is we earn some money and then we spend money, but we cannot go below zero. So we only have the money available to spend that we earn that month, because it comes into our account and then it reduces back to zero. You can't go below zero. But then as time progresses, we get a credit card, we get a personal loan from the bank, and slowly but surely our zero gets moved to minus 10,000 Rand, minus 20, minus 30. And now people think, well, but my credit card gives me that financial security. I can't get rid of my credit card. What if I don't have access to that credit? Well, in actual fact, you don't have access to that credit because you are spending towards your limit and then earning and spending, but you're earning and spending around minus 10 and not zero. It's just your zero that was moved. You're still in the exact same situation you were in when your zero was actually zero. The only difference now is that the bank makes money on everything that you do. Guys, and I see so many people that you go and see them and say, yeah, I've got a credit card, but I settle my credit card every month. So I don't have an issue with credit because I settle my credit card every month. Well, you're still on the negative side of the zero. So if you could live settling your credit card every month, why can't you live on the other side of the credit card? Why can't you live on the positive side and just not go below zero? Why do you have to be on the negative side? And then people say, yeah, but I've got 60 days interest-free credit on my credit card, so I'm not paying interest on it. Well, one thing goes wrong. That's how everybody gets into trouble. One thing goes wrong and suddenly you have to take a little bit more money, and now you can't settle the whole amount. Now suddenly you start paying interest. Then another thing goes wrong. Remember, people don't get into debt issues or debt struggles by a once-off event. Again, very, very seldom, and I'm not saying it never happens, but very, very seldom do debt issues get created with one event. It's a slow progression of, oh, I don't have enough money this month to buy my kids school clothes and school things at the beginning of the year. So I'm just going to put that on the credit card and I'll catch up again during the year. Oh, my son or my daughter has to go on a tour for school. I have to just put that on and then I'll pay it over the year. Oh, the car just broke down. The tire, I hit a pothole. Now my tire is burst. I need to put on new tires on the car. Now I don't have that in my budget, so I just put that on the credit card. And slowly but surely, we start moving that zero further and further and further away from the zero. And now suddenly you're getting into that debt trap where every month you're paying interest on that money, and that's killing your cash flow. So it's very important that you first settle your debt and then start investing.